owner of the AWF, Call Superstar, 11-time tag team champion of the world. This egotistical bastard is ready to shoot the shit as Shawn Walsh presents The Shawn Walsh Show, where there is no holds barred.
Welcome to the Shawn Walsh Show, and I'll get this out of the way right away. I know today isn't Saturday, it's Sunday, and I know some people are a little frustrated because, for one, there was no show out yesterday, and for two, because I had said on the call source page that there would be a show out last night, and there wasn't. And I'm going to clear that up right now. Yesterday, I was up very early in the morning, way too early than I'd like to be up. I was out till about 4 in the afternoon. So I woke up about 6 o'clock and I was out till about 4. And I was doing things, and that was coming off of maybe 4 hours of sleep. Maybe. Anyway, I came home, and my intentions was I was gonna go take a nap, get a little rest, and I was gonna go work on the Shawn Walsh Show. I had commentary that I was going to do, and I was gonna do all that I had to do, finish everything up, and I had it all set. I did not do that though, because when I did get home, I did go to rest and go and take a nap, and I ended up sleeping throughout the night, and I just I woke up a few times, but I didn't really wake up till about 8 in the morning. So as you could tell, I had no opportunity to get any commentary or any episodes worked on. So that is why the episode hasn't been out, because I was very tired and I took a very long sleep. So, my apologies, but I needed to sleep. But have no fear, the Shawn Walsh Show is here. Because I took that long sleep, you get it on early Sunday, so I guess that's pretty cool. And you could probably tell the way I'm talking that I'm still a little tired from my sleep, because I just woke up like not even an hour ago from when I'm recording this. But because of that, that means I'm not going to talk too much. It's not going to be like last week, and I'm not going to go on a big 20-minute thing. It's just going to be very short. And we're going to get right to the interview, which is with the doctor, voices of COH, CCL, and formerly the DWA. It's a really fun conversation. Really good interview. See, the great thing was having a guy like the doctor on is that he has so much experience in call, and he's done so much, and he's been around for all different kinds of calls for many different years. It's a great listen for everyone. Those who are big DWA fans, or fans from that time of call wrestling, the time of like the big four call wrestling, and those that are fans of the Doctor today with CCL on the Blacklist, and right now commentating COH Battleground. Doctor also gives his opinions on some of the things that are going on now, some of the things that went on then, his thoughts on different roles, because the Doctor's played different roles throughout the years. He's just played a regular commentator, he's played a character, he has had the Doctor's Order, the Blacklist, he has been a booker, he's helped with all these different things, and he talks about all that. It's really, really good. I know some of you are looking forward to it, and I hope all of you will enjoy it by the end. And also some news gets broken throughout the show. So look forward to that. Some big news with the doctor is going to be brought to attention on the Shawn Walsh show. Now, in regards to next week's show, in regards to a guest, normally this is the time where I have a guest in mind and I tell you guys who it's going to be, whether it be because I have the show already recorded, whether it be because I'm about to record the show and I'm going to give you guys a chance to set in questions. But here is the thing. I'm not sure who the guest is going to be next week because there are a few guests I have in mind, but I haven't exactly worked one out. I was going to I talked with someone the other day about possibly doing the show and based on recent events. And I didn't get a definitive yes. I'll think about it. So that kind of scratched off my plans of having that guest for next week's show. So maybe I can get someone else to get on a Skype this week and we can record the show. I've had thoughts about bringing on Brandon Wolf to the show because I talked to him a while ago about being on the show because he's going to be on the show this season. But maybe we could speed his interview up. Um, Maybe I might do another one with Adam or Travis or whoever. I mean, I want to say Brandon Wolf, but the thing is, I haven't talked to Brandon Wolf about it yet. So 50-50 shot. It's Brandon Wolf. That will be next week's guest. And that's going to be very fun because I know we've been looking to do that for a while. And I know before there's some people who are listening who are like, oh, you've talked to me about being a guest in the show. Why isn't it me? I have a process. There are some people who will be on the show this season who I have talked to about being on the show this season. They're going to be on the show just a little bit later in the season. I have a certain process in the way I put certain episodes out and who's on and all that kinds of stuff. They will be on. You just got to take it 1 week at a time. I also have an issue because my call note, which is my Skype recorder, apparently is expired for the month. So I can't record until October 1st, which is this Thursday. So hopefully either I can get an interview done this Thursday or Friday or Saturday, which would mean another later show, or I can hopefully get another Skype recorder, or I can get someone else to record the show for me, and hopefully we can get one out this week. And that is the hope. We'll see what happens. Remember, stay on the Call Shoot page and the Call All Stars Facebook page, facebook.com/Call All Stars, for updates regarding the Shawn Walsh show. I'll be sure to post those updates. Speaking of updates, I had said there's going to be a Call All Stars 7 update, and I guess you could kind of figure it out. Call All Stars commentary has not been done. It was supposed to be done last night, and that was my fault for falling asleep, but it was going to be all done last night. We only have half a day one to do, and I fell asleep, so I never got on Skype, so we never got the commentary done. So hopefully the commentary can be done either tonight or tomorrow, or at the latest a Tuesday. Hopefully, crossing my fingers, and then I can upload Call Stars this week. I know this is the third time I'm saying it, but this is the hope. I'm hoping I can get it out. I have everything else ready. The pre-show's ready. The day 2 is ready. So look out this week in your subscriptions box and all the call pages on Call All Stars page. When you see the pre-show has been posted, that means that Call All Stars is coming out this week. So it's coming, hopefully within the next couple of days. But we'll see what happens then. For now, let's go send it to my interview with the doctor. See what the doctor has to say about his long, illustrious career here in Call Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shawn Walsh Show, and today we got a man with quite a bit of history here in Call Wrestling on the show. We got the man that has been the voice for DWA, a voice in CCL, and now the voice over in COH. We got the doctor.
What is going on, everybody? Shawn, I want to thank you for having me on the show. You know, it is customary for, you know, and I know most of your guests haven't done this, but I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy. So, you know, it's what I do. I'm an old-fashioned guy. As you said, I've been in call for a while. It is customary for someone being interviewed to bring a present, as it were, with them to be interviewed, you know, like kind of like a thank you for having me on, thank you kind of thing like that. Like when I do Triple Threat Talk, some people give us the inside scoop, or, you know, it's kind of like their gift to us.
Right.
So allow me to follow in that great tradition, and I have a gift for you.
Huh.
You know, I can't really give it to you, but it's a good thing I can't, because it's really kind of like it's kind of like a suggested new opening for your show. Not that there's anything wrong with the old one, but sometimes, you know, you got to switch things up a little bit. But
Okay.
there was a man by the name of Don Pardo, who you might have heard of, longtime voice of SNL. Unfortunately, Mr. Pardo died on August 18th of 2014. So, in his spirit, though, SNL type opening for your show. Okay? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the Jerry Springer of Call. He is Adam Jackpot's best friend, Jay Crack's secret shame, and he is the sitting chair of the Christian Gary fan club. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawn Walsh and the Shawn Walsh Show.
Oh, jeez. Those are all true facts, by the way.
I hope you use it. I worked really hard on that, and I hope you use it.
Oh, I will.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, the club meets every Thursday. Anyway.
Does it? Okay. I'll be sure never to attend.
No one ever shows up. I never understood why. Oh, but yes, it's great to have you on the show. I mean, I know you've been waiting for a while to be on the show, and
yeah, I have. You do good work. I always enjoy being a part of a show who does good work. You know, that's why I choose, you know, my CCL leagues, the leagues that allow me in. I choose them very carefully.
Yes. Now, a lot of people today, mostly the people probably who are watching, know you from CCL or in COH, but what some people may not know is that before there was CCL or COH, way back when there was DWA. Now, before we get into that, was there anything that you did for Call before the DWA?
No, actually, when I first started DWA, and this is kind of funny, I had no idea that there was another type of federation. I thought it was just DWA. So, I mean, I was kind of naive back then, a little wet behind the ears, but I've since learned.
So DWA was the first. Wow, what a first show to get in.
I know, right? Like, you know, it's not every day that, you know, that you work. Because at the time I was working at a grocery store with Brandon, and it's not every day that you learn that, you know, you had all these thousands of viewers on a show. You know, because DWA, you know, at one point had like 2,000 or 3,000 viewers per show. You know, that's incredible. And he told me what he was doing, and I was like, dude, can I get on that? And he told me about that, and I was like, that's a pretty cool thing you got going on there.
Oh yeah, DWA was really cool, and it's now looked back upon as one of the greats. Like, if you're a guy who has been watching Call for many years, DWA is like one of those top 3 or 4 shows
of all time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's, DWA was a really good thing, and I feel blessed that, like, Brandon and we have such good chemistry together, and I think that that was one of the things that helped toward the end, and I really do count my blessings that DWA is kind of where I started out at. It's a really cool opportunity.
Yeah. Now, with DWA, because I have a bad memory. But did you start as a commentator, or did you have like an on-screen character that was like not a commentator?
I started as a commentator, but Brandon pretty much, like, from the get-go, his idea was to get me a little bit more involved. But yeah, I started off as a commentator, and like quickly I was thrown into, because him and the guy that I eventually went on to replace, by the name of Sloppy J, they were having a feud, and they were kind of having like a commentator's feud or whatever, like who really runs the place. And I came in, and the whole thing that started the Doctor off and the controversies that would follow the Doctor was the quick 3 count at the end of their match, where I was just like 1, 2, 3. And it was just one of those things that the whole thing happened by accident. It's one of those happy accidents, because it was my first time playing the video game platform he was using, and the controller wasn't responding. So, I hit the button really fast, and sure enough, it started working. And he wanted to replay it, and I was like, wait a minute. You wanted a little bit of controversy. I was like, here's your controversy.
Yeah. I
was like, keep this in there. He was going to redo the match and have it do a proper 3 count. It's like, no. I promise you this will take off. I was like, this is the stuff people dream about. And and of course I said that absolutely knowing nothing about Call, overall at the time, but it actually turned out to be the thing that people dreamed about, because it started off the Doctor.
It did start off the Doctor. Now, how, like, what did you do to get the whole character of the Doctor? Because the Doctor character is truly something else. Like, I mean, in COH right now, I mean, it is the Doctor, but it's a different form of the Doctor.
Right.
It's not like the Doctor that in the DWA days, like, it was a different kind of Doctor. I mean, first of all, it was a heel.
Right.
I mean, what did you bring to the table to come up with that character of the Doctor?
It is a slightly more relentless version of myself. It would be myself if you took away all forms of having a conscience. I would be that character. Mm-hmm. And that is pretty much what it is. I based it on myself. And, sometimes people I know now from experience, from, listening to stories and watching shows, some people go a lot of time, developing a call. Like, this character's not going to work out. This character's not going to work out. And I really do feel honored that a lot of people hold the Doctor character from DWA and to some extent CCL, that they hold that character kind of near and dear to their hearts. And I had no idea about all this until that one day that, Chris Gary, he's given a lot of flack, and rightfully so. But a lot of things that Chris Gary does, above all, and I posted this on Call Shoot a couple weeks ago, Chris Gary is probably one of the best networkers I've ever worked with as far as connecting the right people with the right people. And he added Brandon and myself, just like randomly, to the CCL, the Call Champions webpage. And when we got there, that's what Eddie was like, whoa, are you really those guys? And we were like, yeah, that's really us. And, that's kind of what, brought me into CCL. But he thought that, I've been told by a lot of people that they hold the Doctor character with a lot of regard, and it's just myself without a conscience, but it's still a very humbling thing to hear that pretty much I got it in one shot.
Oh yeah. it's oddly enough, it's like, you know, every show has their commentary characters, and people associate them to their show, but really they're kind of like, you know, in COH, before you came in, COH has Oliver Spinebreaker. Now, he's praised and like everyone likes, it's pretty much, well, COH fans like Travis when he does Oliver Spinebreaker, whereas the Doctor is so universal in Caw. Like, the character has, maybe it's because it's been to a few places, but, and maybe it's just because of the show. Like, when you're in a show like DWA, this gets a lot of eyes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, people, when I first came in, you know, I thought I was just having, you know, I was having a good time. You know, I was writing these things, helping Brandon out, because Brandon for a while was going to stop. He was running out of ideas, and so I kind of took over creative a little bit. And, you know, me being young and not so humble back then, I centered a lot of the storylines around myself, but it turned out to be what people wanted to see. And, you know, people wanted to see this character because I'm guessing like no one had, up to that point in Caw, had ever kind of based, you know, there were Caw originals back then, but it was mainly fantasy. And,
right.
You know, like listening to your show, you know, I've learned that, you know, DWA, it was, you know, like I said, keeping in mind, I didn't know about any other Caw feds other than DWA. So when I say this, you know, I have to preface that by saying, you know, what I just said. So, you know, a lot of things back then, a lot of characters back then were fantasy. And, you know, it was like, you know, like Vega from Street Fighter, like in DWA, Al Capone, you know, you know, like an actual gangster from Prohibition. Mm-hmm. Apocalypse from the X-Men, you know, Optimus Prime, Johnny Cage, you know, Spawn, you know, all these people that were, you know, actual fantasy characters. The Doctor was an original. Yeah. You know, he wasn't based on anybody. And I think that was, looking back, I think that was a lot of the intrigue, and I think that was why a lot of people wanted to see the Doctor.
Definitely stood out amongst the bunch, and it really, it kind of pioneered what happened afterwards, because then as years went on after that, when more people wanted to do more original characters, it was because of characters like that. But like you said, back then it was mostly fantasy. Like I talked about how DWA was one of those shows, and those other shows being like ICCW, SMF, and SCAW, and what all those shows got in common is they have fantasy characters predominantly. So, like, what is your take on fantasy Caw wrestling?
There's always going to be a place for it. I agree. I think I think it's fantastic. I think because people want to see, you know, what would happen if Gohan met up with Superman, or you know, that's, you know, people want to see what, you know, people's take on Apocalypse meeting up with Darkseid. You know, people want to see Thanos with Darkseid. People want to see, you know, the Easter Bunny versus Santa Claus. You know, whatever. You know, people always want to see that. And then when you can throw in an original, like strip everything down and just go to the basics and have an original, you know, I think that's really going to that really adds that extra bit of flair, because it really truly is two worlds coming together on one platform, and that is, you know, your game system. And I think it's I really do think, as long as, you know, Evan O'Shea said something 2 weeks ago on your show that I don't quite agree with entirely. Evan O'Shea said, you know, as long as there's a 12-year-old with an Xbox, there'll always be Caw. I prefer to think of it as long as there's someone with an imagination out there, there will always be Caw.
I agree with your way. That's a much better way of putting it. Because a lot of people don't realize, like, I mean, I guess some people do, but not everyone. It's like, Caw, I mean, at least years ago, it was, people got into it, like, a lot of the people got into it, like, their 20s and stuff like that, and then it became a thing, like, oh, once you reach a certain age, like, whatever. I know when I got in, I always thought, like, oh, once you go off to college, like, that's it. But that's not how it works.
No, it's not. And, like, Eddie Mack has always been famous for saying, don't take it too seriously. I try not to take it too seriously. And I have a life, I've got 3 jobs, I'm my primary job, which is, in the pharmacy, working with patients and working with other people. And then I Triple Threat Talk. I'm an actual, member of the general media. And, then I'm a youth pastor on the side. So I have 3 jobs that keep me busy. I'm about to get married. Call doesn't have to end. My involvement with Call will be slowly diminishing. But, since the door was opened and, 4 or 5 years ago for me now, where I see, like, how many feds there are, I'm always going to be willing to be there for,
Right.
People like yourself, people like Travis, people like, Eddie and them. Although I may not lend my voice, I may always be part of the creative process.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny you brought that up, like, how, like, you do have a life. You have a lot going on, but, you do what you can, and you still, obviously, because Call's still fun, and you like to do what you do. And it's interesting because certain people like to throw around people in Call don't have lives, and that applies to some, but it really doesn't apply to a lot, because a lot of people like to ignore and use that as an excuse not to do things. Instead of just saying that they don't want to do it, they're like, oh, I have a life, when there are a lot of people, like say yourself, who has a very busy life, probably much more busy than the person saying it, but you still find the time to do it, and you don't complain about it.
Yeah, and it's a hobby, like people. I think there are definitely people out there that take Call a little too seriously, like you said, and that generalization is out there. It's kind of like, like back in the day. It's actually kind of funny because back in the day, internet dating was a cliche. Okay,
Yeah.
it was like oh, you met on the internet, or you must have something wrong with you. Well, now it's like mainstream. So like generalization proven wrong, like, and that's just one example. There are several others out there, but that's the most prominent. Now, am I saying that Call wrestling will ever take place of actual wrestling? No, it won't. But what will happen is generalizations like that will be proven more and more ignorant as time goes on. And, just because someone enjoys the creative process like I do, like I like to explore stories, it doesn't mean that they don't have a life. Actually, it probably means quite the opposite, because by my experience, if you have, if you kind of an imagination, if the more active of a life you've lived, the more imagination you have, because the more you're introduced to, the more your mind starts going. Like, I've been to Venezuela, Paris, England, France, I've been to all these places. I've lived a very fulfilling life, and it's because of my experiences that my creative juices get going, because you experience culture, you experience other things. And I think the most imaginative, some of the most creative people out there probably have a pretty big life, like yourself. Like, I know you've got a pretty good life, and, I think that that's just a false generalization that people don't have a life, and I think that those people probably need to look themselves in the mirror and kind of ask themselves, why do I think that?
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing you'd mentioned back in DWA is when you started doing stuff creatively, or as like a certain Stunning Steve would say, take over the book. So what was the experience like going from just being, I mean, I guess either just a commentator or just a character on the show to the creative process of a Call show?
Oh, it was great. Like, it was one of those things where, like, when you look at it, you're like, man, I've got all this freedom to kind of work with all these characters. But the thing is, the thing that you got to learn when you do that, and it is very fun, but the thing that you have to learn, that I had to learn, is you have to call it down the middle. Like, if I wanted character A to beat character B, I had to keep in my mind, I have to keep the suspense up for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was really the biggest transition, was learning to do that. And I think that I did a pretty good job of that overall, although certainly I did fall down on my face a couple times, doing that. And I think, but I think it all worked out for him the best. But it is a pretty good experience going from one to another.
Did you prefer doing the creative side of it, or did you enjoy it more when you didn't have to worry about the creative?
And I hate it when I'm doing an interview when I'm conducting an interview and someone dodges a question. So don't take this at dodging the question, but I like both of them equally. Really, it's to me, it's like a 50-50 thing, because with creativity, I get to kind of set the tone. I get to kind of do what I want. But from a commentary view, I get to take someone else's work now, at least, and relay that to the public. And there is something fulfilling about that, because that person is trusting you to help tell their story.
Well, yeah. I asked that because, some people, you've seen all different sides of spectrum when it comes to call. Some people, especially today, today it's so easy because how call shows are done with people, everyone having their own character. Some people just make their character and then send it off to a show, and they have no clue if there's whoever the owner or the writers, that's a bad, the bookers, because we write down a little piece of notebook paper. But the people who book the show, some people enjoy it. I know for me, it's fun. I enjoy it because you get to do what you want. I kind of have a feeling, though, today it might be a little bit more difficult than before, because back in the day, where you have to decide if character A was going against character B, now character A and character B are two guys that you got added on Facebook, are actual people, and some of them may cause a problem, may disagree, and may have all these other things, and you have to worry about all these different people, which can be fun, but can be annoying. I don't know if you've had to deal with that in whether it be DWA or CCL or...
For the most part, I love dealing with people. It can be kind of annoying, fortunately, I haven't had a bad experience yet. Eddie brought me in to be a commentator, and he kind of, it was his idea, or it was a mutual idea between us that we agreed that for this last partial of the season, when it was DCA and the Blacklist, CCL, when it was all that, that we'd kind of bring back the doctor's order, because there was a lot of people wondering if we were ever going to get to the doctor's order in the current climate of CCL, or any time, if it was ever going to be brought back. So we kind of brought it back, and it did pretty well, though admittingly it was a shell of its former self, but that's not a bad thing, because it was still a good thing. I was able to incorporate more people, especially more people who grew up watching DWA that always wanted to be a part of it, like Chris Knight. Ray Geddes was pretty excited to be a part of it. And there were several other people involved in that had always wanted to be part of the doctor's order. And then I had a couple of people ask if they wanted to, and I said no. Actually, I had one person ask, and I said no, and it was Chris Gary. I don't hate Chris Gary by any means. I'm thankful for some of the people that he's introduced me to and all that stuff. But Chris is just, he's one of those people out there that, you got to be careful with what you hand him, because he can, he has the tendency to think that he can run things a certain way and it turn out in a perfect world with no room for error. And that's not quite the real world, I guess, is the best way to say, politically correct, what I really want to say.
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. Now, DWA, I'd like to think that it ended in 2012, I think.
Was it that long ago? Something like that. It was in the double digits. I think it was 10, 11, or 12. Yeah.
Now, do you feel that was the right time?
No.
Do you think it should have ended sooner or later?
I think it should have ended a little bit later, but not much, because Brandon and I knew that going with OVW was in need. Ohio Valley Wrestling, which is an actual wrestling organization where people like John Cena, Randy Orton, a lot of people have come from. OVW needed a kind of like a broadcast show. Mm-hmm. And, we figured that we would kind of audition for that. And we kind of, when that got accepted, that was the inception of Triple Threat Talk, which has now become like a huge hit here in Louisville. But Triple Threat Talk originally was just for Ohio Valley Wrestling, and Ohio Valley Wrestling actually used us a couple of times in storylines and plots and all that stuff. But when that happened, DWA had to take a back seat. DWA kind of abruptly ended, and I know that that's not what the fans wanted. I know that, and to this day, I apologize to people for it ending abruptly, because I know it was successful. But at the same time, when a major wrestling organization comes a knocking, you kind of answer that door, So, but, and it worked out in the long run. It was the best career move that we could have made, was to end DWA when we did. But I know it's not the ending that the fans wanted, so for that, I say it was the wrong time to end it. Now,
just in speaking in a hypothetical standpoint, like a call show like ECW. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but ECW was in its day, over 5 years ago, was very popular, and just randomly stopped. Like, literally, they had one more part for the main event of their episode, and for 5 years it didn't go up. And no reason, they just stopped logging on, and then all of a sudden, late last year, they logged back on, and ECW has since this year made its return, and it's been welcomed back with open arms, and a lot of the old fans are back, and there's a lot of new fans. My question with that, though, is, do you think if DWA, hypothetically, would come back today, the fan base would be there, and it would be as popular as it once was?
I don't know if it would be as popular, but I know that the fan base would be, because the one question that I've been asked from day one, that from the end of DWA to now, has been, how was DWA supposed to end? So I think that, because everyone knew it was coming to an end, mm-hmm. Everybody knew that. But they didn't know when it was going to end and how. And that's the number one question I'm asked. And I think if DWA did come back, it would be just to wrap up. It would be kind of like the Heroes Reborn miniseries coming out on NBC this fall, actually this week. I think it would be kind of like that, like 12 episodes to wrap up loose ends, and that would be it. But I don't think it would stick around. I do think people would tune in to kind of close that chapter. I think it would be pretty good.
Okay, all right. Now, here's a question. I doubt this is a yes, but is there any likely chance that would ever happen?
It's up to Brandon. I'm 33 years old. I used to be pretty good with technology, but as I told you the other day, I didn't know how to add somebody on Skype. So, I much less edit a show. But if Brandon were to ever get bored for a period of about 6 months, which he has been known to do, I don't want to shut that glimmer out. He has been known to get bored and just start doing something. I think if I hit Brandon at one of those points of his life, I think that he would, I could probably talk him into it, I think. So, the answer right now, if our lives continue on the paths that they're on now, the answer is no. But if Brandon ever gets bored randomly, I would be willing to help him with that. And I'm sure a few other new people would be able to help it, to help facilitate that a little bit more. And if he had more help besides just he and I'm sure he would almost 100% definitely consider it. But with the current climate with just he and I, probably not.
All right. Any likeliness of a perhaps one-off show?
He has talked about that several times. So I think the likelihood of that, whether it's this year, next year, or 2 years from now, I don't know. But he has talked about that on several occasions. Most recently, probably about 6 months ago.
Okay.
So it has been this calendar year.
All right. So there's a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance. Yeah, there's like Ohio State had 99% chance to win 2 weeks ago against Hawaii, who had 1% chance. And the thing, like with Sports Nation, was, so you're saying there's a chance? Yes, there's a chance.
But from DWA, you went into CCL. That was the next.
Eventually, yeah, it was like 3 years later, I think, something like that. Yeah, I was out of call for a while, and then CCL was my next stop. Yeah.
All right. Now, was it the Blacklist? Was that right away, or what, like?
No, I was commentary for quite a bit. I was commentary, and then I started talking to Ray. Mm-hmm. And Ray and I, we have a lot in common, and we have a really good chemistry together. We're both really smart individuals. We're both passionate for what we do. We both know that this is a hobby, and we both know not to take this too seriously. And as a result, Ray and I have some fantastic conversations, most of which end with either one of us or both of us rolling on the floor laughing. But it's, I ran into Ray, and he was feuding with the Brotherhood at the time, and we kind of thought, he didn't need a mouthpiece, and he knew that. But what he did need was somebody to kind of look on the outside of the ring, literally, and make sure that no one from the Brotherhood was, gonna be screwing him over while he was dealing with Father Frank or any of the other guys. So, we came up with this angle where he would ask me to join him, as far as, to kind of be his watchman, his manager, even though he didn't need a mouthpiece, kind of one of those kind of deals. But, and it really kind of took off after that. Now,
you went and you had, the alliance with Ray, and how was working with, because Ray Geddes is quite the character, in a very good way.
Yeah, oh yeah, a great way. And working with Ray was fantastic. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I still love it because we still work together. Although this season in CCL, I have yet to be able to commentate over the first 3 episodes. But that's going to change this weekend or this week because I'm going to be working with him on the next episode of Adrenaline. But working with Ray has always been a very amazing experience. Where a few people have gotten on, especially with the whole Brady incident when I first started with COH, and he and I issued that kayfabe response, and people have since kind of referred to us and passionately. And you saw the comments yourself, and a few other people have seen them, saying that we're the masters of kayfabe, and
right.
People see that response, and that's kind of how Ray and I work. We there's no sense in insulting someone personally or anything like that. You just do what you do, and you keep in mind that this is a perfectly acceptable platform for you to kayfabe it out, and that's what we did.
Now, what was it like watching Ray get all the way to the title? Because Ray had, he's over in COH now doing his thing, and so far good stuff, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but yeah. In CCL, he had quite the rise, because it wasn't like Ray was in there, at least in CCL, for many, many years. Ray had a very quick rise because of his following.
Yeah,
Fans were very much behind him. In fact, Ray Geddes is a heel character, but it's just so popular and so loved that no one's going to boo him.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous notion to think that man will ever be booed.
He may be, if not one of the most popular guys in CAW, like right now.
Oh, I'd put him in CAW history. I think that there's like a handful of guys that have had that kind of following. You know, myself at one point for sure. Ray, Brent Harvenator. You know, people have these huge followings, and I think you know, every now and then and when that happens, it's good for it because, you know, several new people get brought into this. You know, several new people get brought into the realm of CAW, and they end up being a viewer, and they end up. You know, there's nothing wrong with CAW. I think people are like, oh, you watch wrestling on little computer screens, you know, like what, really? But you know, it's really no different from actual wrestling, except for the stories are different, and you're not working with the actual people. You know, it's your own stories, and to an extent, I think that there's always a place for that, and I think that's what WWE tries to shoot for. On their create a character, create an arena, and all that kind of stuff. They know that this exists.
Oh, yeah. They know. And the thing is, I think a lot of people that look at the pre-notion, like, oh, you look at TV and you do this. There's a lot of things that a lot of people outside the CAW world don't realize. Like, it literally... It makes so much sense that it's part of the wrestling business, because wrestling business gets the same thing. There's so much that people who don't watch wrestling don't know that goes into it. Yeah. And it's just like, there's so much. Like, it's not just like, oh, some kids go and they make characters and they record funny things. There's so much. And it's weird because it's a bunch of amateurs that do this work that there are people who actually get paid to do for jobs.
Oh yeah,
and they just do it for fun. I mean, some of them aren't too good at it, but some of them are really good at it. Like for very professional editing skills. When it comes to writing the shows, like it's not like writing long scripts like people would have to do for television, but it's these big discussions with a booking team or writing things down. There's so much skill that actually comes into doing CAW.
And the funny thing is, there is that place. But then there's and there's not a whole lot of us. There's not a whole lot of us that do it. But there is a small percentage, I'd say out of the entire CAW universe, there's probably about 0.01% that fall under this category. Mm-hmm. And it is the category of people who have actually been involved in the business. Yeah. And that's, you know, myself, Champ over at CCL. He's part of it. I think Martinez, if I'm not mistaken, I think for a little bit he was actually part of this. Chris Gary, believe it or not, although he doesn't act it, he was actually part of the business for a little bit. And I know there's one or two others. I think Brian Henniger. I could be mistaken on that one, but I think he was. Once again, if I'm actually mistaken on that, I do apologize. But I think he was doing it. And Joseph Matos, he's been part of the business at one time. So there's quite a few of us that have actually been part of it. And, you know, people do ask our opinions on, you know, booking and reality situations to bring these things to happen. But, you know, I'd say it kind of, you know, for me, I take it as it's a humbling experience to be part of something like that, and to be, you know, when someone asks my opinion on something, or, you know, someone asks, you know, to me it's a very humbling experience. I'm not one of these people that takes CAW too seriously, but there's definitely certain members of the actual business that also help with that, as well as the geniuses, and I would say geniuses that do production, like, because I would dare anybody to try to beat Eddie Mack at a billboard, you know, like it's just not gonna happen, you know. And the way Travis edits his matches out, it's nothing short of genius. And you know, you know, those are two shining examples right there that I really think outshine the rest of the competition.
Oh yeah. Now, it's funny you bring that up with the wrestling business and stuff like that. Now, how is, like, a CAW looked at within the business? Because, like, for example, something like Backyard Wrestling is frowned upon when it
Right.
comes to the wrestling business. How is like call wrestling looked? Is that like praise? Is that people don't care? Is that something frowned upon?
It's kind of between praise and people don't care. It's not frowned upon by any means. I'll ask some people. I've asked some of the people like Taylor Hendricks or whatever. I've told them, and they're like, "Oh, hey, that's pretty neat." And they've kind of watched a few episodes or whatever, but they don't really stick with it because they're busy in their own right. But the one thing everybody that I tell it to, that I have a little bit of anything more than a 5-minute conversation about call, and they're like, that's pretty cool, that people get their ideas out there and things like that. And so much so that that WWE, especially since they know WWE exists, how many times have you been doing a show or watched a show and then like 3 months later, WWE has found a way to work that specific odd angle in?
Yeah.
I mean, so it exists. So I think there's quite a bit of praise for call overall, especially since WWE knows it exists.
Oh yeah, they know it exists, and it's funny because, like you said, you'll see things that like either sometimes you've done yourself or that you've seen in other call shows, and you're like, wait a minute, I know where you got that from.
And it really is the ultimate compliment too. Like when they do that, it is the ultimate compliment when you see your idea out there. Now they could just give you the ultimate paycheck for your idea.
That'd be great. Hey, I'd give them any idea. It just brings money the way.
Seriously.
Oh, now back to like some of the storylines in call. Like it was CCL. We were kind of talking a little bit about like the blacklist. How did that come into fruition? Like,
I asked Eddie when the blacklist was going on. I was like, because I was noticing that, and it was through no fault of his or anything. I think it was just one of those things it was a minor detail that kind of slipped through the cracks. So like, there's no really continuing force. There's not really a force there that will bring CCL together to beat the blacklist. So I volunteered to be that source. It's like, look, people want to see the Doctor's Order again. There have been people asking about it. Ray is there, but Ray wants the championship. Mm-hmm. And Ray doesn't need help, nor does he want help. He and I kind of did that storyline, and it kind of became the natural point that Ray would be at the forefront of the Doctor's Order, but since Shazeen and the Blacklist were always there, like any good general and like good generals, because he and I were kind of there together, you need troops. So right. We started. I said, let's do the Doctor's Order. We'll bring them back. I'll bring back somebody that at least can connect it. And we had Psylectra. People know Psylocke was an original member of the Doctor's Order. So we had Psylocke and Sylar, the two Psys. And we had them come in. And, of course, Psylocke was already there. But it seemed only natural that she joined the Order. And then, of course, we had Great D come in, Chris Knight, Elektra, and other people that were part of it. And that's kind of how that came about. Was, I just said, hey Eddie, I would like to be that force that kind of brings everyone together against a common foe.
Okay, all right. Now, obviously, with the Blacklist and DCA and all that happened there, I mean, I know I asked Eddie about it, and Eddie loves it and thought thinks it's a great idea, and I agree. I would expect that you liked it, but what were you thinking with CCL working with DCA, and it picked up quite a bit of steam for both shows and made it so much fresher.
Oh, absolutely it did. I think I liked working with it. I liked working with DCA. D-Wall's a trip. Like D-Wall used to be so stiff whenever he used to commentate with with us, but then like he gets in with Champ and I, and now there's no stopping him. I mean. Like he's just like he went from like saying stuff like Doc please or Champ please to get in there and being in the fun of part of the fun of commentary. But he at one point was a little bit of a stickler, but he's really come a long way. And I got something to say real quick while we're talking about D-Wall. Anybody who has a problem with DCA Revelations has no clue what went into that show. I will forever defend D-Wall to the death because of one reason. If you're not out there doing what people like yourself, Eddie, D-Wall, Travis, if you're not out there doing what you're doing, you got no room to talk. You got no room to talk. You don't even have to watch their programming. Who do you think you are? Anybody, and this isn't directed at one particular person, but who do you think you are to sit there and criticize a show that someone has put together and pretty much try to drive that person away from their own show and their own business? That is not cool, because there's a lot of that creative aspect. D-Wall worked hard on that show. And while we thought the Doctor's Order angle was going to be used in the original broadcast of that, and that probably would have helped the show's end a little bit better, and probably would have stopped, a little bit of the negative criticism. Not all of it, but probably a little bit of it. It was a mistake. It was an override. And I know that people were expecting something else with DCA Revelations. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to watch it. No one is forcing you to sit there and watch YouTube. Nobody has got a gun to your head and say, hey, watch my show, you jackass. No one's saying that. And I think that the notion that somebody can honestly criticize someone's work of art, someone's thing that they're worked on, I think that's just absolutely ludicrous. I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, 'cause I was gonna ask about the whole DCA Revelations, and it's interesting because obviously I've had D-Wall on and he's talked about it, and I had Evan O'Shea on 2 weeks ago, and gave her take on it. So, I kind of see, I see
where she's coming from. I see what she's saying. I do, and nothing I'm saying is a shot at anybody. I understand that there are frustrations out there with where people are going to book. I get that. But who are you to tell them what they're doing wrong if let them learn from their own mistakes, let them learn. There's no sense for someone to criticize someone so much that they walk away from their company for a little bit.
Now, an interesting question to something I asked Eddie. With you being in a call for a while, I don't know if you've had any run-ins with perhaps group kind of known as the Vivianverse. I don't know. Those would be like with Burb, Evan O'Shea, at least at a point, was involved with it. Brent Harvenator was kind of involved with it. But have you ever any interactions with them at all?
No, I have not. I know of them and I know they know of me, but that's two groups that I've never come across. And honestly, I think that because I know Evan O'Shea and all them and Brent Harvenator and a few others, I know that they're good bookers overall. I do. I know that they've put out good products. It's not like I would ever refuse to work with them or anything like that. If we could talk or whatever, it's just one of those things that, Superman and Goku have never met up. It's just kind of like one of those situations, we've never met up, so I've got no opinion of one way or the other. And, you having Evan O'Shea on the show 2 weeks ago was a different perspective of looking at things. And, I don't think any more, any less of anybody I haven't met. I haven't met them personally, so I will hold judgment until we have an interaction. And, she had some very valid points as well a couple weeks ago, very valid points. But the thing she said about DCA Revelations, couldn't disagree more, and I would even go as far to say she is way off base.
Okay, all right. With CCL, that the blacklist, we talked about all that, and now one thing that you did starting with the new season of COH is you came over and you're doing the commentary on Battleground. It was a little rough at first.
A little rough.
Like,
No. Menelaus and the Pope had a little rough. That was a train wreck.
yeah, I mean, I know because I talked to you about it, but like, explain, like, how tough was that with doing the commentary for COH, and then a lot of people were very vocal.
Yeah. A lot of people were very vocal, and rightfully so. You know, like I said, I do this because I enjoy it. And since I enjoy it, I want other people to enjoy my work. And if I'm doing something wrong, like in my commentary, and Adam pointed it out on your CogCon show. Adam pointed it out exactly. I'm used to working in a team. You know, DWA, I had Big B with me. CCL, I've got like 16 people with me. But, you know, I'm teasing. I'm teasing, Eddie. Don't kill me. Don't fire me. I'm teasing. It's okay. With Battleground, it's just me. And that's okay, but I'm still kind of trying to be the quippy doctor. I'm still trying to call the action. I'm still trying to do whatever. And I'm still trying to get my footing. I've gone back. I've watched 5 or 6 full episodes of Battleground that happened before I got there, so I'm learning myself with it. Actually, I saw a fantastic shot of yourself in a couple matches. So, but yeah, I think it's one of those things that I wasn't mad at anybody for doing it. When Brady said what he said, I know Ray and I issued that kayfabe response that everybody thought was wonderful. We issued that, and then I think after that, Brady kind of was like, okay, I'm going to give this guy another chance. And I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard you be candid with your guests. So if you think this is your time to kind of air it out, I think I've improved a lot.
I agree.
Okay.
From the beginning, you know, clearly, like, you could tell, like, it was something new and different. It wasn't something, because, like you said, it was different. You're used to being with different people instead of being by yourself. And also, it was all these new characters. Mm-hmm. And especially with, you know, while I love doing stuff with COH and everything, sometimes some people can be a little emotional.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying it necessarily is too much of a bad thing, because I get it, but sometimes some people get a little too offended if you don't know something, or you get something off about their character. It's the end of the world. So, there was that, but obviously, like, I could tell, and I know other people have too, because they've told me, like, you could tell, like, you learned as episodes went on, you knew more about the characters, to now where, like, it's much better than the first day.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, I sincerely, and Steve, I know you listen to the show, I want to apologize to you wholeheartedly. I really do. I did not mean to undersell the group of the Eradication. I know that was a point that you brought up on your show, that he felt that I undersold the Eradications thing. I looked at it when I was calling. It was my very first episode, and it's kind of what started this whole thing. And there's been, like, Kane, for example, Night of Champions. Mm-hmm. Kane came out, and he chokeslammed Seth Rollins, and then, kind of Sheamus came in, started talking to Kane, and Kane chokeslammed Sheamus. That kind of stuff happens all the time. Like, the Wyatt family went out to help the Shield before their feud started, and relations between the Shield and the Authority broke down. The relations between the Shield and the Wyatt family broke down as well. So, what I'm saying is, I didn't know if it was just a moment like that, or if it was just going to be like a one-time thing, or if it was the formation of a new group. I didn't mean to undersell it. I just didn't know what was happening. That wasn't relayed to me. And I sincerely want to apologize to Steve for that. And I just think that, I think that when it was a big deal, and I didn't do what I should have done with it, and part of it's on me, and part of it is just me not knowing. You could say one thing all you want, but I hope that like Steve is seeing what I'm doing with the eradication now, how I'm calling them, and I hope he's kind of warmed up to that, I guess.
I hope so. I haven't talked to him about it I guess since the CallCon show, but I would think so. And and hopefully that it's like that for everyone. I hope everyone also too in the future, even if it's not just in COH, kind of just takes it as a learning experience. Like if they see something the commentary isn't as good as they thought it should be, or you don't know something, instead of complaining about it, trying to help. Because I remember in the beginning, a lot of people were complaining, and I was like, because I messaged you, and I was like, I should probably say something.
And I appreciated that.
I didn't want to be like one of those guys that's in the background, like, oh yeah, it sucked, and then not go and try to help. Like, no, nothing gets done. This way, at least everyone wins.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's one of those things that I was glad that you said something, because I wasn't aware that was how it was being being perceived.
All right, let's go to the fan questions, which you can submit. Ask.fm/Shawn Walsh 105. Yeah, that's it.
That sounds right. Ask.fm. Yeah.
I just call it Ask FM.
It's not like it's www.ask.fm. That would
See,
be
what I don't
weird.
get, why isn't it not .com like every other site?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted it to be like a radio station or something, like .fm or .am. Like, it could have been crazy.
Well, they're stupid. Unlike our viewers who send in all these great questions. So keep on sending the questions, guys.
And cue ridiculous question from Jay Crack in 3, 2, 1.
All right. We, as human beings, often make mistakes, and we learn from them. That's how life works. And in the past, you've made some mistakes on commentary, and you've since corrected them. Now, what I ask you is, was it a mistake that we freed the dirty minorities from slavery? Hashtag fat Asian kid is racist.
No, it is not a mistake that we freed the minority kids. It is not a mistake. No.
Interesting response. I don't know how many people are going to back your answer. We live in a very predominantly racist community.
Yeah, that's very true. Everywhere I go, I see a sign that says "I hate people named Jay Crack." That's kind of racist.
Yeah. A lot of hate for Jay, man. Let's go on to the next question. Thoughts on the Rogue Shark?
I like him. He reminds me a little bit of Ray. He wanted to go for the big dog. He thought I had a Skype account, so not a Skype account. What is it? He thought I could upload my own stuff, so he sent the promo in after me. So I had to tear him apart in a typing promo. Mm-hmm. So he needs to take little steps, but he'll get there eventually.
He'll get there. He's good. He is. He hasn't found his stride yet. He has some good work. I know he's done a promo for CWS, but he hasn't really made it somewhere. And I mean, hopefully he does, because I know he's in my developmental system, PCW. So hopefully he can get something there.
Yeah, he's he's going to be good. He's not Ray Geddes, so he can't go for the top dog. And
oh no,
yeah, right off the bat. So
all right. Next question. This is from the #1 fan of the Shawn Walsh Show and our friend Christian Gary.
Oh dear.
If triple threat talk becomes
a successfully popular regional radio show in the Ohio Valley, do you see it becoming nationally known within 5 to 10 years?
It already is a very popular show in the Ohio Region Valley, and B, we haven't gotten major national attention yet, but I've been on ESPN before, so it's
It's pretty big.
yeah, it's big. It's gonna get big. We do things a little bit different than what most people do with their sports radio shows. So I think it's going to be pretty big, and I think we will be a national name in about 5 years.
Okay, all right. Will we see any other Doctor's Order members in CCL?
I don't know. Maybe. I think ideally, I would like to do it again. The threat's got to be real enough,
Mm-hmm.
We're still working with things on the blacklist, but they're pretty much gone. It's like the last remnants of the Empire that we're going to see in Star Wars Episode 7. But, it's like one of those things that I would like to continue it and add new members, but the story would have to be right. I just don't want to do it to do it,
All right. When's the Doctor coming to NJCW for some commentary?
Whenever I get asked. No, I would do NJCW. I think that would be a good move. Right now, I probably couldn't be a full-time commentator between CCL, between Triple Threat Talk, between COH. I probably couldn't do it full-time, but I could make an appearance or two.
Yeah, I mean it's NJCW. I mean, who wants to be on NJCW? I mean, there is one good thing since I co-own the place, but once I get 100% control, it'll be great.
I have nothing. I have nothing to fear that will not happen. I think when you get full control, it'll be 100% perfect.
See, I got support. Everyone thinks that I'm this bad guy and everyone's against me. No, not true. All right. And this is from Travis Sparks. Any call matches you commentated where you had to do multiple retakes?
Not in a while, actually. I think, there was a couple times, like in CCL, where, like, Eddie might not have hit the record button. But, I mean, other than that, I pretty much go with it. It's one of those things that since I've done it before, like, doing it in real life is so much harder and under pressure than doing it on the call form. You still have to get it right. Like I said, I've made mistakes, like with the Steven thing, but it was one of those things that I didn't mean to. It was like I explained during the interview portion. It was just one of those things. I thought it was just a random, like a random interference. I was familiar. I wish I could go back and recall that differently, and to give inaccuracy and the eradication the credit they deserve. But other than that, no, it hasn't happened much.
All right. Now, one thing that we have talked about throughout the show is your very big history here in call. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take some of the big topics that are being discussed on whether it be Ask FM or the Call Shoot page or wherever, and just throw a few topics and get a couple thoughts on them.
Okay, sure.
All right. First, the people know the Ray Geddes fans. We've talked about it throughout the show. Ray has a very big following, and sometimes Ray has nothing to do with it, but sometimes his fans and some other people tend to exchange words with each other, and it gets a little out of hand. What is your take on this? I guess you could call it this little drama, this little issue that some people have with the Ray Geddes fans.
I think people need to realize one thing. Ray and I are really tight, like, in the call world, and we've actually become, as good a friend as you can be without actually having met somebody. Like we talk and on the phone, and on Skype, and on instant message all the time. But the one thing I've learned about Ray is he's a very humble guy. He's a very nice guy. And his fans, it's kind of like, to put it like in sports terms, it's kind of like the Clemson fans, okay? Like Clemson fans are so nice and so polite until they get riled up. And when you say something bad about the Clemson program, oh man, you have poked the bear. So I think people just need to realize that it's call, and one additional viewer or two additional viewers is a good thing, because we're all in this together. What is the objective of call? To put out a product out there that people want to watch. If people want to watch Ray Geddes, that's fine. That's great. I think they ought to. I think that. I do think, however, and this is not a slight at Ray at all. Do not take that like that, but I do think one thing, he doesn't always have to go for the championship in whatever promotion he's in. I think there's really cool stories that he can be a part of while not actively seeking a championship. And, he's proven that when he was with the Brotherhood or when he was going against the Brotherhood and, other parts of the Blacklist besides Casey Gordon, he's proven it. And I think that it would be a little bit more to develop his character to go on active quests that not quite seeking a promotional championship.
Okay. All right. With you being the commentator over on Battleground, you obviously have been watching this global title tournament. Who's your prediction to win the whole thing?
Oh gosh. I think Phoenix.
Okay.
I like Adam. I think he's Kenyon's really good. He's got the only thing he's got to work on. I've told him this, so it's no surprise. I don't want anyone running. Did you hear what the doctor said about you on the Show show? I told him this the other day. The only thing he's got to work on is his promos. He cusses way too much in his promos, and other than that, it's he's a good kid, and he can cut a good promo.
All right. All right. Now one thing that, at least to me, is pretty big, and to about 230 some people who have liked the Facebook page, Call All Stars, which, as many people probably know, you're going to be taking part of some of the commentary this year.
Very excited.
What is your take on some of the matches that are going to be taking place? Like, for example, Ray Geddes versus Ben Hitman, and C.J. Hawkins defend the Call Stars title against A.J. Young, Quicksilver, the Rumble, all these all-star matches. What do you think of the card overall this year?
I give the card overall an A plus. An A, and I say that because there's a couple matches that I've seen that we weren't too crazy about. I think Adam and I and yourself both agreed that maybe the ladder match went a little too long, although we knew why. But other than that, I mean, Ray Geddes match I'm looking forward to. I tell you the match though, and I'm looking forward to most of all is the Al Capone match, the triple threat match, and it's because it's gonna kind of be like a temporary I'm back in DWA kind of thing. And
Right.
Even though the Doctor's Order kind of feuded with Al Capone there for a little bit, I think that I think that's going to be really cool to watch that. So I think I'm most looking forward to that match. But another thing I am looking forward to is seeing Hitman in action for the first time. I've heard many things and I've read many things, but I haven't actually seen it with my own eyes. So that's going to be pretty cool to see that.
All right, all right. And then last, before we get into the name association, there's been a lot of hot talk of a super show that people want to see. They want to see CCL versus COH. I've talked to Travis about it. I've talked to Eddie about it. Both seem to be interested in it happening, but Travis hasn't gone on to say that it's official. Eddie has said it will happen. He just doesn't know when. What is your take? Do you want to see it? And what matches would you like to see on this show?
I would like to see it. It would have to make sense, though. It's not one of those things that you could just do to do. I'm a big fan of, story. So maybe it would probably have to do something along the lines of myself, Ray, and Great D. Maybe kind of like doing something or saying something to one or either promotion, and maybe that kind of starts off a war. Or it could be maybe the Eradication kind of comes on board and we restart the Doctor's Order and we have like a Doctor's Order. So, or it could be something completely different. I don't know. I would like to see it. It would just have to make sense as far as matches that I would want to see. And I know this is a possible match right now in COH, but I would like to see it in a CCL ring in front of CCL fans, and it's Inaccuracy versus Ray Geddes. I think that would be fantastic. I would love to see. I would love to see the Patriot versus Chris Knight. I think that would be a great match. Um, I would like to see, and once again, it can happen on COH, but one match that I would love to see in CCL, in a CCL ring, would be Nate the Great versus the Great D. Battle of the Greats. I think that would be really cool. Um, I think one more match I would really like to see, because these guys are both really incredible, and I really think that, here in a couple years, they're going to be both fantastic superstars. I think it's going to be TRT and Ultimate Nitro. I think that would be probably one of the best matches that could come out of that feud.
Wow, that would be quite the card. All right, let's go to name association. This one's going to be an interesting one to start it off. You just mentioned him, Ultimate Nitro.
He said it himself. Take everything he says with a grain of salt.
All right. Steve, Inaccuracy.
I like him. I don't dislike anything that he's done so far. I'm liking the Eradication angle. I think he's a good talent.
All right. Let's do Lester Barkley.
Fantastic. When I think of Lester Barkley, I think of Call the way it should be done.
Okay. All right. Christian Gary.
God, how much time you got? No, best networker I know. Seriously, in all honesty, best networker I know. Person with the least amount of people skills that I know, probably.
Okay. All right. Gregory Black.
One of the biggest stars besides Ray Geddes, besides Brent Harvenator, somebody out there, like a big name. One of the biggest stars that I've seen in an underdog in a while. I really like his angles. And he comes out to the Dropkick Murphys. How can you not like that?
Right. All right. The Goonie.
I'm just now starting to get familiar with him, but I will say one thing. I like the Gooniverse thing. It's one of those things that you don't expect someone to like have their name, and this is going to sound kind of elementary, but it's true though. Like you don't expect someone to put like the Shawn Walshiverse. You don't. It doesn't work with everybody. The Gooniverse. It's pretty cool. I like the fact that he's created his own little reality there.
All right. All right. Nate the Great.
I like Nate. Seeing him wrestle in the Call world, seeing him cut promos. I am very pro Nate the Great.
All right. Let's go Travis Sparks.
The boss. Yeah. He asked stepped up and asked me to commentate on COH. I know that was when I think of Travis, I got to go back and say he gives his fans what they want. I remember for that night a while ago, somebody made me aware of a poll going on in the COH Facebook page, and my name popped up as, who would you want? It was person A, person B as general manager, and someone added person C, the doctor. And I got the most votes, and he took from me. He didn't make me general manager, but he figured out the fans wanted me in COH. So you gotta say he gives the fans what they want.
Now, I'll continue with the name association in a second, but I gotta ask this because I just remembered it since we were talking about this. When I did the call con, one of the questions was directed towards Travis in regards to how he uses you and asking why you don't do more. How do you feel about doing commentary and not doing, I guess, being an on-screen character or manager or whatever in COH?
It doesn't bother me as much, like I've said a couple times throughout the interview, it has to make sense story-wise. I like being a commentator. I do. It's one of those things, the camera doesn't have to be on me, and it shouldn't always be on me, because I'm one of the characters who's a little bit older in the call world, and my job right now is to put over the younger characters. It really is, and I do that quite well. And I think even the question that was posed by whoever asked it, one of the questions, the back end of the question was something like, he's got a proven record of pushing over young talent, and I do. It's one of those things that I don't take a whole lot of this thing. I don't take a whole lot of call, like with how they say you don't take it too seriously. But that is one thing that I kind of feel I do very well, is put over the younger talent. So, the camera doesn't always need to be on me, and I'm okay with that. And I would love, though, to be able to put some of the younger kids over, because that's what I'm doing right now. I've done it for a while, and I know how to do it. I've got a pretty good mouthpiece because I've done this before, and, like I said, not just call, but in reality. So, but right now, I'm fine with being a commentator. If Travis ever needs me to play a bigger role, I'll gladly do it.
All right. Kazarni.
Who?
I think that one that makes it quite clear. Also, Paradise.
OVW wrestler. I know. Are we talking about the OVW wrestler?
Pretty sure.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. I like him. Little known fact about Paradise is he did all the artwork for OVW, and he was a fantastic guy to work with. I miss him in OVW. I know a lot of people do. And his feud with, and I was there for it, and I can't remember his name because he's long gone. With Glenn, his feud with Glenn was fantastic. It was him versus Gay Pride, and they just nailed it. They did it in a respectful way, and they, at the end, they both came out of the closet, and they, put everything behind them. They became a couple, like an on-screen couple in OVW, and it was just a really good, and for him to do that in the face of the political climate of the world today was nothing short of admirable. I have nothing but respect for Paradise, and I've told him that several times.
All right. Let's go with a name that I don't typically throw around. Brandon Wolf.
Brandon Wolf. He's a good young talent. I think his career is about to get a little bit bigger. He's one of the ones I'm worried about, though, when it comes to cutting promos. I think he can cut a promo. it needs to sound like he's not reading though. And you know, the kid, he knows what to say. I just worry about how he says it, and I think that's one thing he needs to work on.
Okay, all right. And we'll do one last guy who people who've been following your career for the last few years would expect this guy to be brought up, and that being the man behind CCL, Eddie Mack.
I like Eddie. People have thought that he's been hard to work with at some times. I've never had any problem with Eddie. Eddie is the guy who reached out to me, who kind of, you know, brought about the second coming of the Doctor, and I'm grateful for that because I've honestly thought my career was in the rear view mirror. But I'm thankful to Eddie for the second chance, and I'll be with CCL until the bitter end. As far as you know, I don't plan on leaving CCL. I guess pretty much is what I'm saying. Like I will always be a part of CCL. So.
All right, and bonus one here because we can't end it without mentioning the guy to give you your first start. We've talked about him throughout the show, but it's the guy you gotta finish it on, and that being Brandon.
Brandon is fantastic. I wish Brandon would be on Saturday Night Live tomorrow. Literally, because tomorrow's Saturday. But he goes to Second City now. I know he loves it. He still is. And I've told him this before. He's one of the smartest kids I've ever met who's underachieved a lot. But he'll get there. He's just got to find that one thing that he's truly passionate about, and that's my advice for everybody. Find that one thing, because a lot of you guys are young kids. You're a young kid. Travis, young kid. You've got Brandon Wolf out there, young kid. Phoenix, still pretty young guy. So many of you guys have your whole lives in front of you. And I would strongly urge you all to find the one thing that you guys are passionate about. Because 10 years ago, if you'd have told me I would have a regionally renowned sports talk show, I would have called you crazy. I really would have. I didn't think it could happen. And it's just one of those things that you work with over the course of time. You put your foot into the door, and eventually the gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and people can surprise you. And, for my money, and I've told Ray this too, for my money, the Shawn Walsh Show is something that I enjoy listening to week after week. Do you do everything perfectly? No, you don't. But do you do everything well enough to where I can see you growing week to week? Yes. And that's something that I'm talking about. Don't be afraid to step outside the box. If Adam wants to start up tomorrow as a circus clown, I think he ought to. I think if Travis
Adam is a clown.
Yeah, that's true. If Travis wanted to go to school to learn how to be a welder, if he's got that inclination, whatever. I'm not saying he does, but I'm just saying if the thought is in the back of your mind that you think you might have an inkling to do something, I think you ought to do it. Look where I am now. It's pretty cool being able to get credentialed to go to all these cool sporting events and all that. I think my lucky stars that for once in my life I wasn't scared to do something.
Very good words, and hopefully people listen and use that and apply that, not just a call, but in life. So
yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it can be pretty scary, but you'll find out that everything gets better, and life's got a lot for you guys. I mean, life has got a lot in store for you all.
Just remember, whenever you have a bad day, tomorrow it's going to be a new day. You need to bring the power of positivity.
New day.
Put your hands together and clap for your 2-time tag team champions.
New day. New day. New day.
Oh man. That's great. But thank you Thank you, Doc, for coming on. This
Thanks
is
for
really
having
cool.
me on. I hope to be back. I gotta say one thing though. Everybody has a wish list, right? Like some things
Yes.
that they want to do. I've still actually got a couple things I want to do in call.
Oh.
One of those is I want to book. I want to be, one of the people in charge of making the stories and all that. I don't have the technical prowess to. So here's my thing. Here's what I'm saying. I've got two things to say. One of them is I want to book. And if someone out there doesn't want to book but wants to render, that would be awesome because I honestly think I could have one of the best call leagues if we followed my booking and character development. And that's because, being part of the business for so long, a couple tricks and all that. And plus I was part of creative for DWA, and Brandon shared that. And when Brandon passed the reins over, we started to do a whole lot more stuff that a lot of people responded to well. So I think that would be incredible. And the second thing I would really, really like to do, or really, really like to say, not do, is everybody's time comes to an end. And I would like to make an announcement on the Shawn Walsh Show that through the end of 2016, I will be retiring actively from the world of call. I think that I'm going to be married at that time. I'm going to have a family, going to be wanting kids. Triple Threat Talk will likely be about 20 times larger than what it is now. So everything will be a little bit harder to do, and call has been fun. I'm going through 2016, so like if I go a little bit into 2017, like to finish up with CCL, or to maybe do some things with Travis or whatever. And even if I get the chance to book, I would probably still write stories behind the scenes and pass the notes off, and I would still be active that way in a creative capacity. But as far as on screen, I'm officially announcing my retirement effective the end of the contracts for the 2016 year. So it's been fun, and I really honestly appreciate everybody's support and everybody's coming out to say that the Doctor is one of the best villains they've ever seen. You'll never know how much that means to me. You really won't. None of you will. But it's been a great ride, and I wouldn't have traded my call experience so far for anything in the world. It's been fantastic.
Well, first of all, thank you for all the stuff you've done here in CAW and all the stuff that you still got to do, because while like the end is quote unquote near, there's still plenty left to do. So
It's going to be a fun year.
yeah, let's not look at it as like, oh well, the Doctor's got like a year left. Let's look at like what else can he do?
Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna, I already see, I see big things.
I do too. I really do, and I think if there's ever a call award show, I would really like to have the Lifetime Achievement Award.
I mean, you and Garnet Core, Christian Gary, you may be runner up, but
Yeah, I know, right? Like, if you ask Garnet Court what he's done, he's probably going to say, "I was the first man to wrestle a match on the moon," or whatever. So,
it's incredible accomplishment. I mean, I didn't even know he got out of his bathroom that he does his promos in, but
I didn't know he did either. I thought he was stuck in his mom's basement, but who am I to judge?
hey, people do crazy things. And I believe that's the best way to wrap up the show. So thank you, Doc, for coming on. And thank you for all you guys watching the show. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. And see you next week.